Another not so simple question has to do with programming of non-immune tissues. So of course we can get white blood cells from people pretty easily. They're much stingier with their brains and their reproductive organs and all kinds of other things that would be actually quite useful to understand from an evolutionary theory standpoint. So what happens here is essentially a second level of recursion. So if you've got gene expression both influencing health, but also kind of feeding back onto the body, one place that's going to regulate is the brain, which itself is producing behavioral, social responses into the world. And of course, the world responds to those things. People treat us differently as a function of our own behavior. So you get a second level of recursion here, where this external loop of the behaviors that we produce as a function of our, if you will, plastic genomic programming are going to feed back and potentially help lock into place, hopefully virtuous, but potentially also, sort of detrimental or damaging modes or programs of gene expression. And that dynamic within an individual writ large creates an opportunity for fairly complex network dynamics. So really the third big thing that we're just starting to try to get a hold on is how groups of genomes cross-regulate one another. What kinds of emergent regulatory characteristics are present in the network of interactions among a bunch of these individually socially sensitive genomes? Is there some, one take-home point is that we are not entirely self-programmed. We depend to some extent on information from our environments to complete the realization of the potential that our genome creates. And so that raises the question about, is there a network level dynamic that helps stabilize, control, perhaps synchronize the activity of different human genomes in different individuals within the same local social or cultural groups? Just starting to try and get a read on that. So take-home point I'd like to leave you with in the big picture is simply that the experiences we have today, in principle, have the capacity to influence the molecular composition of our bodies, at least for the next, maybe 80 days or so, which is the kind of the, average half-life of a protein in the human body. We're constantly turning these things over, and so to the extent that the environment advises us to turn them over or recreate them or replace them under a certain mode, that's going to have a certain amount of persistence forward in time. And to the extent that it kicks off some of these recursive feedback dynamics I just talked about, there's the potential for this stuff to last even longer. So on some level, this is pretty terrifying, right? Make the wrong choice, your molecules go crazy, they lock you down, and you're nuts forever. And so, and it's not clear to me that going to like a molecular biology lecture at NIH is necessarily the best thing to do. Maybe go hang out with your friends, have a beer, something like that. Maybe that's the worst thing to do. Maybe eudaimonic well-being, get to work and learn some molecular biology and save the world. I have no idea what the real answer is, but I can say it's certainly an exciting time to be able to do this kind of work just because we're now getting to the point where we can start to sew together life at the level of experience with life at the level of molecular biology. So thanks for your attention.